And some people are just joining us from outside the country. We have people from Canada, people from USA. We want to welcome everyone. And everyone in Nigeria, we want to say Happy Democracy Day. My name is Freedom Daniels. I'm one of the moderators of today. I'm a microbiologist, a consultant, a principal promoter of Nature's Unique Empire, and I'm also the SOO of Ruach.ng. And I have with me a co-moderator in the person of Mr. Musime Poto.
Thank you very much, Freedom, and good morning to you, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. As has been introduced, my name is Winston, and I look forward to very interesting conversations today. Our panelists are well equipped, well ready, and able, and will do justice to the subject. We'll be hearing from me shortly as I set the background for our conversations today. Thank you, and I'll hand over to Freedom now.
Thank you, sir. So good to see you this morning. You're looking so bright.
I want to lay a background or share some opening thoughts on why we are here today. It is no news that COVID-19 has been around for the last 7 months, and it has been in Nigeria for the last 4 to 5 months. And this COVID pandemic took the world by surprise. Many people, especially Nigeria, will struggle to get back to the altitude we were pre-COVID-19. We will definitely experience some turbulence as we go through that journey. The essence of the conversation today is to talk through several strategies that we could use to soar above these turbulence as we strive to get back to that altitude in the various sectors of our economy, individually and personally. It's also said that without your personal economy, things will go wrong, and you might be unable to contribute positively to influence the economy of your country. Now, the pandemic has left us with several lessons, chief of which is the fact that at a time like this, it is important that every nation can feed itself. It is safe to say that the greatest threat to a nation's national security is its inability to feed its citizens. Successive administrations in the past have made agriculture a key policy. They have tried to ensure food sufficiency within our nation. Somehow, we are still dependent on importation. So, we will be hearing from our panelists as they share their opening thoughts in 1 minute on these background, as well as what we will be hearing from them in the course of this conversation. So I will start off by recognizing Mr. Abdullahi Ibrahim as he shares with us his opening thoughts based on what we have talked about or what I have just described and his own vantage point and what we're expecting in the course of this conversation. Mr. Ibrahim, you have the floor.
Good afternoon for those watching us from other parts of the world. My name is Ibrahim Abdullahi. I've already been introduced. Even prior to the COVID-19, Nigeria, there were a lot of calls for Nigeria really to focus on agriculture, or rather diversify the economy from reliance on oil, which we have seen that world over oil is becoming something else. So even prior to COVID-19, agriculture should have been the main focus. Then there comes the COVID-19 pandemic that distorted and destabilized everything, but in agriculture sector, we are really seeing it as this is the best opportunity for our farmers and any other interested person really to redirect his attention to agriculture, because that is where we have what it takes to absorb the economy, to absorb the population, because it's only in agri sector that you have different value chain, and each of the segment of the value chain will be able to employ millions and millions of people. We are going to see that as we go into details of our presentation as far as the absorptive capacity of agriculture is concerned. But unfortunately, as a nation, we have not really been strategic in actually developing our agri sector. We have all that it takes. We are going to hear subsequently regarding the land resources that we have in the country. But unfortunately, we have not planned our agricultural land very well. Hence, the reason why we talked about importation. I'm happy you talked about food importation into Nigeria. It shouldn't be so. Nigeria is importing food from smaller countries. We have more land resources than those countries. We have more population than those countries. We have more farmers than those countries. But unfortunately, we just relaxed and dependent on oil mainly, neglected our agri sector. And here we are importing huge quantity of food products into the country, which we really need to develop our own value chain to address those issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for that very insightful introduction. Indeed, we will be delving into some of these issues, number of farmers we have and their inability to meet the demand. But let's just stick to the 1 minute so that we can hear from everybody before we get the questions in. As I did say earlier, I beg your pardon, that we have questions that have come in already, and I will just shoot on once we have heard from everybody. We move to Fumilayo. Can we hear your opening thoughts in 1 minute, please?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
It's my pleasure to be on this panel, and I believe we'll be able to discuss a lot of issues here today. My opening thoughts on this is before the pandemic, women have always had issues, especially as regards to opportunities that are available. But with the pandemic, we have seen that women and men were affected by the pandemic. So we need to re-strategize and make the economy more inclusive and get women to also be decision makers in whatever plans we have post-COVID-19. Basically, that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fumilayo. That's a very insightful one as well. It's something that we will definitely spend time talking about, getting women to be decision makers as well. The fact that both genders were affected by the pandemic. Now let's hear from Mr. Ife. Can we have your opening thoughts?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And welcome to everybody. So my opening thoughts are that we're in very critical times, and I think the government understands this as much as the private sector. Just yesterday, the Vice President submitted the Economic Sustainability Plan to Mr. President, which is a plan that is supposed to help Nigeria to weather the storm, the post-COVID-19 storm. And one of the key pillars of that is agriculture. So this webinar is very timely, and I think it's very important. And I'll be happy to listen to everybody. Just very quickly, Nigeria's food import bill has actually been reducing drastically because of policies of government, but I guess we'll be able to delve into this going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ife. Thank you for that introduction. Definitely be talking about the economic sustainability plan that was submitted yesterday. Now let's hear from Dr. Victor Oshadele. Let's hear your opening thoughts in 1 minute.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I would first like to appreciate the promoter of this platform for bringing this palliative to Nigerians all over the world. What I would like to say is that it is important that we take Nigeria from the level of discussing templates to the level of practicing those content in the templates. So today, what I would like us to do and to focus more energy on is going beyond the conversation and generating possibilities and solutions, and also giving a performance dashboard on how some of these solutions can become a reality to a common man on the streets and to lead to economic emancipation. So basically, I may be talking about policies and who set these policies, why are they not working, those that have worked, why did they die, and who are the people that put this policy together, and who are the guys that are supposed to implement them, and where are the missing link. Yes, the way to go is agriculture, but we would like to look at templates. Do we have templates that are functional, that are pragmatic enough? If we do have, we will try to unveil all of those today and chart a new course. You know, basically before COVID-19, Nigeria economy was embarking on a journey to ICU. So I'm coming with the twin attack of the dwindling oil price, and at the same time, all the trouble that come with the COVID. This is apt for me, and for me, this is the greatest palliative any organization can give to the citizenry. So thank you everyone for coming to this platform, and I'm sure we will share our thoughts, and at the end of the day, I'm very sure that we'll bring out something that is tangible.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Dari. Yes, we will be talking about policies, why they are working and why they are not. It is important that we move from discussing the problems, but start bringing out the solutions and action points to get us to the promised land, which is food sufficiency and employment for as many people as we can possibly. So let's go back to Mr. Ibrahim from NISAL. Since you have been in NISAL for a while, you've been in the agriculture space for a while, I beg your pardon. And agriculture, yes, a handful of people see that as the solution, a major part of the solution to our unemployment. Now, when people talk about agriculture, we compared us to other countries, they have a smaller amount of farmers, yet they are feeding their country and even exporting to Nigeria. When you ask the average farmer, why are we not meeting our own quota? Why can't we produce our own food? What you get to hear from most places is we don't have access to credit, and finance for smallholder farmers is also limited, especially in the area of primary production, that's cultivation. And this is largely due to very stringent credit conditions. But we've all agreed on something here. We have to produce what we're eating, and we also have to create jobs for our people. So as a national official, can you share with us your perspective on why we are unable to achieve the food sufficiency, and perhaps what practical steps have come from NISAL towards achieving this?
See, you've raised very pertinent issues. The fact that our farmers, when confronted, they always say that it's because they don't have access to credit. It's limited. They cannot even see the credit and things like that. You are right. And they are also right. You talked about issue of provision of job, food sufficiency of the country. Nigeria is even importing from smaller countries. You see, it's all about seeing agriculture as a business from the farmer perspective, the smallholder farmers. As long as they are taking agriculture or farming as a culture, they will continue to practice agriculture in a subsistence manner. What we fail to understand as a country is that agriculture is a business and should be taken as such. It should be well regulated. There should be good policies. There has to be a kind of blueprint at national level, state level, local level, even to the farmer level. But what we have today is a farmer will just wake up without really knowing which market is that farmer serving. Will just pick his store, will just pick his grain and go to the farm and start planting. If you ask the farmer, who do you intend to sell your product? He doesn't know. Selling to processors? Is he targeting export market? Or is he producing for local consumption? If you are targeting each of these markets, they have their own specification that you must consider during the production. So there has to be that planning of where, how, and when for farmers to really know. And this cannot just happen at individual farmer level. There is no way it can happen like that. There has to be a kind of coordination by an institution, by community, by interested corporate bodies, by off-takers themselves, so that farmers will be well guided. That is in the area of deliberate planning, so that you know to whom are you producing what you are producing, so that it will not be rejected. In the case of export market, we have had many cases like that in Nigeria. Hence, we have not been able to export to many countries. And even locally, the processing companies that we have, they've rejected a whole lot of stock when delivered because it failed to meet their own specification. Then, coming to the issue of the access of to credit, you remember that financial services also is a business, talking about commercial banks, other even investors that wants to invest into agriculture. There has to be that structure that will give everybody comfort to be able to say that, yes, I'm comfortable, I will be able to invest or extend credit to this group of farmers because there is visibility, there is governance structure and everything. But what we have fragmented and disintegrated smallholder farmers across the country, and there is no bank that will lose its focus and start going to farm or be serving individual farmers. So when we come as an organization, NISAL, the main mandate of us, NISAL, is actually to de-risk the whole agriculture and facilitate agribusiness. So we now look at the different segments of the agriculture. We have what you call the pre-upstream. We have what you call the upstream. We have what you call the midstream. We have what we call the downstream. The pre-upstream has to do with research and innovation, seed development, fertilizer, provision of mechanization services, crop protection product. That area we don't have much problems, though we have some issues, but the main segment that we have serious issue is the primary production, which is going to the farm itself to produce that fish, to produce that cocoa, to produce that maize, to produce that rice. That is where we have serious problem as a country, because we left everything in the hands of individual, uneducated farmers that kind of doesn't plan. They just take their whole and go to the farm and plant anything. So now we assess everything and realize that we have to fix that particular segment of the value chain, which is the pre-upstream. So what did we do? We now said we have to bring these farmers into a structure that will make them look like any other business, like small, medium, and large enterprises, just like we have in any other sector. So that is exactly what we are focusing our attention now, to make sure that those small individual farmers are put into a structure that will make sense to bank, that will make sense to investor, that will be able to address and meet the needs of the markets that I mentioned: export market, industrial market, and consumer market. Okay. Do I still have more minutes?
Your time is up, but I think you've raised very pertinent points. I know you've also somehow touched on the agri-geo cooperatives, when you're talking
Yes.
about bringing people together. I would follow up with questions on that in a minute, but I want to hear
Okay.
from the financial sector, because you've also mentioned here that the main issue really is not about finance per se, but it's more to do with a structure and a blueprint around the business. I'm happy that we have a consultant on this call and the panel as well, so I'm sure he will shed more light on that when I get to him. But let me take Mr. Akiade from the financial sector. When we asked for his opening thoughts, I think his network was not connecting at the time. So I would want Mr. Akiade to give us a 30 seconds opening thought, and then I would ask him a question that had been sent before now. Mr. Akiade? Mr. Akiade, are you here?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm happy to be in this forum. The connectivity.
Please, your opening thoughts. 30 seconds, please, because we have a lot of questions for you.
Yeah, as we begin the recovery process out of COVID-19, I think the question we should be asking ourselves, what do we need to do to build back better than where we're coming from? I know COVID has been an opportunity for the world to reset, for organizations to reset. Now, the question we should ask, we should not say, oh, we want to build back, build the way we're doing before. What must we do differently to scale in our planning, in our communication, in our execution, and leadership? What must we do? And for organizations like finance, what must we do? Must we leave the finance of agriculture to government through public funding, through budgetary, or by raising of bonds for the sector? Or we should come up with specialized finance option or model that can be a long-term blending and well-structured to this subsector. We all agree that this sector contributes almost 40% to our GDP. And this sector is the same sector that employs almost 70% of our working population. So we cannot afford to joke, to play with this sector. So it's a sector that everyone must be interested in, both the finance institutions, the private organizations, development partners. We must all show interest. I'm so excited when during the AFDB president, when he said the opportunity in the agri-business is no longer just an agri-venture, it's a business that is almost $1 trillion by 2030. It means everybody must be interested in this sector, and we have a lot to do. And COVID has given us an opportunity to have a reset. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy. That was very passionate. Now, let me just throw a question at you that had been sent. I'll give a bit of a background. Most people feel that as the MD of Microfinance Bank, that your thoughts here today will represent the thoughts of the financial sector to an extent.
Good.
And a handful of people, statistics out there has shown that lending to the agri space has been less than 5% of the lending you will find out there. Most banks are still giving credit to the agricultural practitioners at double digits. Yeah. So, question, how can we get more finance into the agribusiness sector, especially at the micro level? I'm bearing in mind that we also need to get farmers onboarded into the financial system, allowing them to access credit, loans, and finance, perhaps through inputs and services. So how can we get more finance into the sector?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy. I would like to take it up from where Mr. Ibrahim ended his opening remark. He said, one, a lot of people, it's agreed. Last year, 2019, the stat said 15.1 trillion was disbursed as loan, and less than 650 something billion was to agri sector, which is less than almost 4%. It's a fact because we have started to back it up. However, it's not enough to say, why are we not lending to the agri-sector, or what is the opportunity that has not been taken in that sub-sector? The question is, have we really developed that sub-sector to become a business? Because we must move. If you see where it started from, some people still practice agri as a cultural venture or traditional business they are used to. We must scale. And how do we scale? For you to structure your business to be bankable, you must improve the bookkeeping. Most farmers are not very financially literate. That's one, but that's not enough. There's challenge with record keeping. Most people still carry out the subsistence farming, but they do some petty selling of small crops. But it's of recent, if you look at it in the last 2 years, a lot has happened in the regulatory reform and direction of government towards lending. And I can tell you, if not for COVID, you will see a lot is changing. One of the things that government has done lately, and I can tell you, will surely start reflecting or impacting lending. One, before now, we have a data issue. A lot of businesses, even the agri businesses, there's no way, we don't have a data to even know how many farmers do we have. But now we have an idea. You can see something start happening from the Anchor Borrowers program, but these are government initiatives. We are looking at what must we do. Government has put some enablers. One of them, the Credit Bureau Act, the Secure Transaction Immovable Assets and Act. Again, look at the ability, the minimum loan deposit ratio that was a directive by CBN. These are one of the directives, one of the reform or steps to direct lending to the real sector, which agri form one of the real sector. Other areas is cross-bank loan servicing. You will agree with me. A lot of banks or financial institutions it's not because of knowledge of the industry. I will not agree with that any longer. If you say that 10 years, 20 years ago, yes, but not again. Most banks have developed structure, they have developed system, and they've developed strong enterprise risk management framework to be able to analyze the risk associated with that sector. However, there are still some limitations, and I'm sure some of the next steps for deepening credit access to that area is the credit reporting that we have in Credit Bureau is still less than 14% of the people doing business in the country. It's only financial institutions that submit reports to the Credit Bureau. Now, what must we do? We must increase the reporting to even the telcos, landlords, retailers, courts and collateral registry. There must be a synergy towards the data information. And these are the only reason why banks can get assessment of customers and their reputation to lend to them. Not only that, we must improve towards credit scoring. We want to lend. We must not wait for only government to handle the initiative or programs of lending to agri sector. Financial institutions, we are ready, and I can tell you that some part of what we are doing have started some specialized programs towards funding. But this kind of funding cannot come from normal cash and short-term deposits, because we all know the agri space or their business is more of seasonal and long-term. So you cannot totally use a short-term fund to lend to a long-term. But when we start putting up specialized programs developed by private sectors, we will lend more. This is part of what Microvis, and I tell you, some other financial institutions have started doing it, securing long-term funds specifically for agri sector. But one of the things we must, let me run my thought.
Please, let's round up, because we have some questions that are going to address, would allow you to speak more on what you're about to talk about. So just a round off here so that we can hear from other panelists.
So what I'm saying in essence is this: there's a lot to be done, but I can tell you the era of saying the financial institutions do not have good understanding of that sector, that time is past. The era of saying they cannot analyze the risk, because if you say they are high risk venture, in the first place, that means you have identified the risk, you have assessed it, you have measured it. For you to say they are high risk, so what must you do? That means you can develop a mitigation around those risks, and that's what most banks and financial institutions need to do going forward, as this sector is very important to the development of our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kayode. Wow, so passionate. Thank you very much. Let me hear from other panelists.
My thoughts?
Your thoughts were very profound. Let's hear from Fumilayo. In her opening thoughts, she talked about gender balance, talked about the fact that opportunities were abound for women pre-COVID-19. And when COVID-19 came, it affected both gender. The question now is, what should we be looking at what are we going to do differently to provide opportunities for everyone? What's the new solution from your thoughts or from your perspective as a lady who has been in business, was going through challenges? What are your thoughts?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. With the pandemic, I'm sure like everybody know that we're going through a total reset. Everything has been affected. Education, just everything. So right now, I'm going to talk on gender issues for women who have always felt, I have a husband somewhere who can take care of me. This next phase of our lives should be inclusive. Women must begin to get empowered in this next dispensation. It's very important. I love what all the other panelists have been saying. I know some women are here and are getting all the information that women have to get involved in the economy and get involved in decision makings and also become productive. One of the things that I would say through my experience as an entrepreneur is every woman should be financially independent. It's not about equity. Gender equality is about role playing and the influence of the woman in the economy and in nation building. It's very, very important that women are empowered, because I'll tell you through my own personal experience, if I was not empowered, I haven't gone through some challenges, it would have been really disastrous. A lot of women, most of the time, find themselves totally helpless. But in this current dispensation, some women have their husbands who no longer have their jobs because of the COVID. Some have lost their jobs. And if you don't have a woman who is also empowered, what happens to the family? So I believe strongly that women must start to get on top of whatever they're doing to be a part of this next phase or this next move. Agriculture, there's so much to do. Every woman must identify what they are passionate about and get included, basically.
All right. Thank you very much, Rui. Yes, women need to be empowered, and we need to we need to harness our resources. And if the women are about half of our country's population, we're only empowering the men, we're empowering only one side of the population. So again, are very pertinent. Let me move to Ife. Is at the heart of the executive arm of the federal government. Now, Ife, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. So we've heard thoughts I had a question here for you. I will try to weave it around what has been said by Ibrahim and Coyote, talking about the fact that the sector, one major challenge we have there is not necessarily finance, but the structure, the level of literacy of the operators in that area. Now we have a nation with over 70 million youths and 500,000, at least 500,000 individuals graduate from tertiary institutions within the country. Seeing that the white-collar jobs are not as much as they used to be to satisfy these 500,000 youths, and with the understanding that we need more literate people in the sector. You are the special advisor on innovation at the Office of the Vice President. Can you talk to us about your innovative plans and programs that will make agriculture attractive to people who have been through the four walls of the tertiary institution, knowing fully well that this is what we need to provide structure to that sector?